Hello, welcome to the Eurogamer.net podcast number 98.
Wow, we're getting ever close to 100.
Just too short. What are we going to do for that, Martin?
Probably the same as we do every week. just sit around looking a bit confused.
You'll say, it's the 100th one, and then it will continue.
That's Tom Phillips, by the way.
Hello.
In case you didn't know. This week's podcast, very excited. We're going to be talking about... Oh,
So excited, you actually just got about 2 inches shorter.
yeah, I've just tweaked my chair. We're going to be talking about Resident Evil Revelations on the 3DS, of all things. And also the Circle Pad Pro, which comes with Resident Evil in some places. Is that a Zavvi thing?
It's
It's been launched alongside it, and
Zavvi.
so certain places are bundling it with it. So Zavvi bundled them together. Other places charge extortionate amounts for what's quite.
It is
already
quite
considered a bit
expensive.
basic.
It's about £15, isn't it?
Yeah.
On its own?
On its own. Zavvi were doing a deal and they had it for $29.99. So early adopters who got in their pre-orders got a really good deal, and now it's up to £40 or something. So no deal at all.
Inflation.
I know. But
Revelations.
you can buy it separately, but at the moment there's not much point because Revelations is the only game that supports it.
Good. Well, we should start, I guess, by talking about Resident Evil specifically. I haven't played it, so I'm going to be no good at the rest of this podcast. You have been playing it, both of you.
Yes.
As you do
at
love,
length.
You love the Nintendos.
Yes.
So, Tom, how is it? From what I do know, it's supposed to hark back to earlier Resident Evils, a bit more puzzly, a bit more exploration.
Yeah, the first bit of it is in a very almost mansion-like setting, which people remember from the first game. You're in this spooky, abandoned ship, which you pick up a distress signal that Chris, your teammate, is lost on. You're bored, no one's about, it's deserted. And it's genuinely quite atmospheric.
It's got more of that survival horror stuff, which is kind of missing from at least the main game of Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I went back to Resident Evil 5 a couple of weeks ago because I got overexcited by the trailer of 6, and also the fact that Revelations is coming out, and played the episodes. And one of those had that kind of more survival
One of the
horror.
DLCs for Resi 5 is amazing.
Lost in Nightmares, yeah. And Revelations is a bit more like that, like Lost in Nightmares, in that it's more exploration.
Quite claustrophobic, lots
Yeah.
of corridors.
It's so stupid. I got when I was playing Revelations last night, I got to the point where you've got to put a crest into a door, and I literally screamed with delight. It's ridiculous how something so simple can give me so much pleasure. But yeah, it's very traditional in that regard.
Good. So, tell us a little bit more about stuff like the enemies, because I read our review. I think Rich Stanton reviewed it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I think the enemies
he
are
seems to
actually
have
one
a
of
problem with some of the enemies, the oozes.
The
or
ooze,
something?
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a weaker point for the game.
His
I don't
point
know.
was, which I do agree with, is that you don't get any real visual feedback off them because they are just these big gelatinous blobs. You fire off rounds into them and they kind of just keep coming at you, and then at a certain point they will fall down. As
Yeah.
opposed to if you're used to playing like Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 5, like with the Ganados, like you shoot them back. You shoot. Can you shoot out their legs? Am I just making stuff
Yeah,
up?
you shoot out legs and then they sort of limp around. You can like take off their heads, and you can't really do that with these blobby guys. They just sort of keep coming. Just absorb bullets and then eventually, just drop over.
I'm not sure if that's as much a design choice as it is maybe a sacrifice, because it seems to be doing so much technically. Like as the 3DS game, it's the most visually impressive thing on there.
It looks really good.
Yeah, it looks.
It's like the Mario of adult games on the 3DS.
Mario, yeah, it brings up other,
In terms of
other things
looks.
in my mind. Yeah,
That brings up Bob Hoskins in my mind.
oh really? It brings up Bob Hoskins doing horrible things now. Thanks.
Do you know that is his greatest career regret? I read in an interview the other day. He
That
said, if
he
you could
didn't-
change anything in your life, what would it be? And he replied, I would not do the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Did he do it for his grandkids or something though?
I think he did.
I think he did it for the money, Martin.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, there's me thinking everything's just motivated by love.
The love of Mario. Sorry, where were we? Enemies.
Yeah, they're not great. There's a real sort of dearth in variety as well. I keep hitting the same ones over and over.
Yeah,
Dogs
it
are
does.
back, apparently.
It does. You do get like hunters later on in the game, and I'll admit I haven't actually got too far into it. But there are dogs, and I'm always behind a game. I hate dogs. And I love shooting them. I'm always behind a game which lets you just really rip into dogs.
How is playing Nintendogs for you?
I've never actually played it actually, but can you torture dogs in it?
No.
Can you just neglect them, like in The Sims or something?
Nintendo are adding DLC this year, so maybe,
I don't think Nintendo are ever going to add neglect DLC, RSPCA DLC.
Where you can just get a hammer out and just smash little puppy's paws up.
It's horrible. Yeah, dogs were iconic, weren't they, from the
first one, yeah. And they're back in this one. I guess they're kind of like, there's certain things that you have to have in a Resident Evil game, or it's not Resident Evil. Dogs are one of them. Crows, you have to be able to shoot crows.
I haven't shot a crow yet.
I don't know if you can. They're on that beach near the start.
Yeah, they are. I remember seeing the crows.
Yeah. I remember in the first game when they fly through the windows.
It's also got the return of Chris and Jill. But does anyone...
See,
I kind of think of two more charisma-free kind of lead characters for a gaming series.
After Resident Evil 5, they've kind of been sullied, in my opinion. It's all about Leon now.
Yeah, you're right, actually, yeah.
Because this game is set before Resident Evil 5, curiously. So if you haven't played Resident Evil 5, it's before those shenanigans, which kind of
between 4 and 5.
Yes, and that Resident Evil 5 really annoyed me. Some of the choices that they made in terms of what the characters get up to. But yeah, playing this now, I'm just not as interested in them as I once was.
Does it still have the stilted dialogue? Just the weird, playing weird, lost in translation stuff like the very first game did?
That's part of its appeal, though. I think it kind of hams up to that now. It has to, like, Resident Evil is super camp.
It's no fun. It's no fun though if it's knowingly doing it now.
It toes a fine line, I think, between it just being self-parody and just a ridiculous thing anyway. But it's weird because you say it takes place for Resident Evil 5. I have no idea about the Resident Evil timeline anymore, and I really don't care either.
What happened to Umbrella? Are they still around?
Umbrella, at the beginning of Resident Evil 4, it kind of explains that Umbrella aren't really around anymore.
The only thing I know about Resident Evil is the first game.
No, well, Wesker is in Resident Evil 5.
Oh, is he? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he's in it there, but probably won't appear in Resident Evil 6 due to things that happen in Resident Evil 5.
Spoilers, he's dead.
Well, he died in one of the earlier ones. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's dead, but... But he has a very dramatic death in 5, which would make it very difficult for him to come back again. You blow him up and he gets blown into a volcano, and then the volcano erupts.
That sounds like something out of Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah, it's just ridiculously over the top. So, because of course all the volcanoes there are in Africa, do you happen to fly over in your helicopter and stuff like that? It just appears.
So instead of there being a timeline, I always think Resident Evil games are defined by how pert the bums are of the female leads in them.
There's definitely a timeline there, isn't it?
Yeah, because they just get like, this is Jill's behind is incredibly.
It's a fine thing.
Well, maybe because it's 3D as well. They probably spent more time on it.
Does it make use of the 3D?
Her bum sticks right out of the screen.
It's almost like it's right there.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It follows on in Resident Evil 5. You had Shaver, your annoying compadre, who just got on your nerves the whole time. She had a fairly well modelled behind, and this is kind of like the next evolution.
Yeah, exactly. That particular timeline.
Good. So are they going to carry on making the sort of spin-offs?
Well, apparently this isn't a spin-off. This is a full. Even though it's not got a number in the title, like Code Veronica, it's not a Resident Evil Raccoon City. No, this is a full canon game in the series. So hopefully, I think there's a lot to like about the game. The raid mode is a lot of fun, and I think save the game's ass a little bit.
Well, I was going to say, because in our review, Rich, I think it's Rich.
It was Rich
Standen.
He spent large portions of the review not kind of making out that the campaign was okay but not brilliant. But then he said that the raid mode, which I guess is the multiplayer...
It was one of those funny reviews because he did. Yeah, there were a lot of complaints, which are quite fair about it. But I think the truth is, which does come across in the review as well, is that the campaign itself isn't all that. I mean, it's entertaining, and it was 8 hours well enough. But the game was completely saved by its raid mode.
Yeah.
I thought that the raid mode wasn't available until after the game was completed. I thought they announced that as some kind of news report, and everyone got really shocked. But it is only after the third chapter.
The first 3 chapters, I believe.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. So
how's raid mode? What is it?
It's like it's a co-op mission or co-op missions featuring locations from the game.
Yeah.
Which you can play through after you visited them, and there's like missions and stuff to run around and do. And
Can you play as different characters? Can you play as Wesker? That's what I wanna know.
I haven't unlocked
You
all
play
of
as a
the
dog?
raids. You can't play as a dog.
And it's like an
I
evolution.
don't know that, but I'm guessing.
It's like an evolution of mercenaries, isn't it? I guess.
Yes, that's a good analogy.
But yeah, I haven't actually played it myself yet, Raid. But I'm still kind of stuck in the main game.
Good. So the thing we talked about earlier, the Circle Pad Pro, is something that comes with Resident Evil in some places, adds another analog stick to the 3DS, no less.
Yeah, it's a funny contraption.
Is it? How does it feel? Have you played it with? Have you played it without?
I've played it with both.
So I've been playing it without. I started playing it recently, Resident Evil Revelations, and played it without. Got through the first few hours absolutely fine, and then just played it today with the controller, and I think it doesn't work as well because it's quite
Really?
Well, it seems to me because this Circle Pad Pro, I think, came about when Nintendo wanted Monster Hunter. Kind of had a bit of a panic.
They were in
said,
panic mode. They needed to.
And then Capcom said, "We'll give you Monster Hunter but you have to have a second analog stick." And so they said, and they just created this absolute monstrosity of a thing. And then now games are kind of just being reverse engineered to fit it. And it feels like playing Revelations. It feels like it was a game that was designed to work perfectly well without the Circle Pad Pro. Because when you play it without it feels even more like a traditional Resident Evil game because it's got like the tank controls, like the original tank controls from the early Resident Evils. Because it's got that in there.
Well, I guess the first Resident Evil obviously was out before Sony released the analog pad for PlayStation 1.
Yeah. Plus, you had all the fixed camera angles and
Yeah.
But it's also it's the fundamental things change when you use Circle Pad Pro. Like you can shoot and move when you've got the Circle Pad Pro, and you can't do that without. But I think it's better because when you've got that kind of staccato thing, which is more like traditional Resident Evil, where you have to stop and shoot. I prefer that, and I think it works better.
you can shoot and move in Resi 4 though.
I know, but can you? I thought it was Resi 5. You could did that. You couldn't.
Oh
do
no,
Resi
no,
4.
you couldn't shoot and move in Resi 4. Yeah, but you can in Resi 5 and 6.
Fantastic. Our producer James is
Intrigued.
nodded off, I think.
Shocked that you can't move and shoot.
He says he's shocked that you can't move and shoot, which is fair comment, I guess.
Anyway,
But you need that because that's the whole point of like Resident Evil games.
Is that how you create oppression? The feeling of
'cause
being surrounded by zombies.
The
not
feeling
what
of
you can do.
fear in Resident Evil games just kind of comes about through the technical limitations and through the
it's not easy
not
to run
design
away.
flaws but odd design quirks in them because you couldn't move and shoot, which does seem like an odd thing to do, but it makes you feel like super vulnerable when you're being faced down by loads of zombies, and it works really well like that. In the same way that the weird camera angle thing worked in the first game, because you didn't know what was around the corner because you literally couldn't see because of the game was directing the camera that way, and they've done away with that obviously a long time ago. But it's one of those weird hangovers, and I think it's one of the ones which works well. The fact that you just have to stand still when you shoot, and in the Circle Pad Pro that's gone, so it feels like a different game, and it feels like a less scary game because of that.
It's interesting because I started off playing, and I've almost exclusively played with the Circle Pad Pro. So for me, that's kind of the norm, and it's very easy to get used to.
The scariest thing about when playing with Circle Pad Pro though is just when you look down at your 3DS and see what this horrible monster that your console's turned into.
Scarier than the game itself.
Yeah.
The peripheral. It is. I think Damien McFerrin, who did our review of it, put it very well. It's something that only a mother could love. It's a very strange piece of technology and something that
My mum hates it.
really,
Yeah.
well, heartless. It was obviously created while Nintendo was in panic mode, and it's a bodge solution to a problem, which may not even need solving with Resident Evil. I would imagine that game it's been in development a long while, probably before the Circle Pad was announced.
Yeah,
They just
Revelations
added
was
it
one
later.
of the kind of games that it was first when Nintendo first announced the 3DS back at E3, whenever that was 2010.
Yeah.
That was the game that they showed off with it, or at least one of them.
Oh, it was going to come earlier, wasn't it? And then
Yeah.
they did Mercenaries
Mercenaries.
first to get sort of train up on the 3DS.
And so obviously the Circle Pad Pro has been around, being pushed around a lot behind closed doors when they've been, because Capcom to work on Monster Hunter, but I don't think it's too much of a leap of logic to suggest that the Circle Pad Pro came afterwards and kind of patched into Revelations.
Yeah, definitely.
And same thing, I imagine, Kid Icarus as well.
Yeah, that would be the first Nintendo title first party Nintendo title to support it, which is coming out in March.
Yep, and that's got another peripheral with it. So how does the stand work with the Circle Pad Pro?
You can use both in conjunction with each other.
What's this other peripheral?
This is a peripheral which allows you to keep the 3DS steady on a flat surface. It is basically a stand. And you can then not have to worry about holding the 3DS yourself. You can use both hands because one is tapping on the touchscreen to fire.
Have they ripped the stand from the bottoms of unsold Virtual Boys?
Yes.
Right.
Stolen from the bottoms of boys. It's such an odd thing. And it's coming free with every copy.
The 3DS is
of Kid Icarus in March.
Yeah.
Kid Icarus. Oh, yes. The thing that
Flies.
no one...
Yeah,
no one
it's an old
But it's
Nintendo
here
franchise.
anyway. Yeah.
It's a really odd
the
decision.
only reason I know Kid Icarus is from that...
Smash Brothers?
No. Good God, no. From that cartoon, Captain N.
There is... Some people want... I remember Matt Cassima Mina, when I was at IGN, used to go nuts for Kid Icarus, and then was just adamant it was coming out year upon year upon year, then just...
But wasn't it pretty bad? The
The original Kid Icarus, it's a game.
Yes. A bad game?
I've never played it. It's actually out on the eShop this week, isn't it?
It is. Or if you registered 2 Nintendo games over Christmas,
I did that,
you got
but
that
it was
free.
such a ball ache during the whole registration thing.
They
And I
didn't make
registered
it
3
easy.
games, but then even then I couldn't. The site disgusted me so much that I thought I'd rather pay £4 for it when it comes out than have to deal with this questionnaire every time I got to register a game.
They sent me an email and the link or the code was empty. That's how
Nintendo
how
are really bad at
not
this
they
stuff, aren't
wanted
they?
me to get the game.
Because I was in a shop the other day and 2 people were complaining about how WiiWare or WiiWare points, is that a thing?
Yeah.
How they expire?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't think they do. I think
They might have been
Stars,
wrong.
like, you know when you get a game and you get like a booklet inside with like some points.
Yeah.
You register them online and you can buy WiiWare points with those and they expire. The Stars do, but the WiiWare points, once you've paid your actual money for them, then they don't expire. That would be bad if you'd paid for something and then it just wasn't there anymore.
Good. Okay, so is this Circle Pad Pro thingy, is it going to open the door to multiple FPSs? Are we going to have Call of Duty?
I would imagine it would support it. I mean...
It's such a weird thing, though, because the really ugly thing about it is it completely divides the market for the 3DS, whereas other editions kind of work in a way like when you've had the DSi or the Game Boy Color or whatever, when they've iterated on past ones, they still fundamentally the base level is all the same for anyone all the games have that same base level to work from. But now you've got this, and just splits it in 2, so it's really awkward.
I don't think they'll ever release a game which you need
Exclusively for Circle Pad Pro.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever do that because, as you say, it will split the user base, and the user base really is not in a position where it could be split right now. They need every user they can to buy all of their games. They're still not out of the woods really yet. Whether the next 3DS will come along with it built in, probably.
But as I said, even
you'll
then,
always have...
you've still got millions of 3DSs out there without the stick, so you always
they've sold
that
10 million now, so that's not a user base they'll want to exclude.
Having said that, you say about the FPS thing though, games like Metroid Prime Hunters and was there ever Call of Duty? I never played the Call of Duty games.
They
on
have
DS.
had Call of Duty on DS. Yeah.
First-person controls work really well when you've got a touch screen, like much better than they do if you've got an analog stick.
Yeah, I
or
remember
at least
Hunters.
maybe not much better, but at least it's a very good alternative.
The DS had that weird little nub thing which you strapped to your
on the strap.
thumb,
Yeah,
and you controlled your looking around via stroking the DS touchscreen. It was odd, but it worked.
Good.
You look unconvinced, Tom Champion.
No, I'm not convinced. But
I
then
think,
I'm not a
there's-
handheld guy.
Yeah, it's a special kind of person that doesn't want Call of Duty on a console, wants it on a DS or a 3DS. But the option is there if they want it.
The online infrastructure is not there. It makes sense on Vita from that because you can imagine you would have that kind of consistent play and the kind of connected play transferring between your Vita and your PS3. But when you don't have that, when you wouldn't be able to replicate that on 3DS. Maybe you would 3DS and Wii U, but...
Do you think Nintendo will make a 3DS with a second analog stick built in?
Yes.
Yeah, but not for quite some time though.
April.
Next March, I reckon, because they've got the Wii U. I was thinking it was going to be this year. Actually, I was
well,
convinced.
Nintendo do
this
this,
year.
don't they?
Yeah, but
they get everyone to buy their stuff at
but-
Christmas, and then in January they go, "Hey, guess what? There's a new version of that thing you bought last month coming out."
But,
in
you
2
know,
months.
people criticise Nintendo about that, and I know I am a bit of a Nintendo apologist, but it is a fair comment to say that really every hardware company does this. There isn't one console that hasn't been iterated upon. New iPhones come out every year, people buy them as soon as their contract expires.
I'd be all over a new 3DS now.
There have been more PSP versions released than DS versions.
Yeah, and they're all such minuscule changes in between them, and actually it just got worse and worse and worse. Or at least
At least with the DS, you know, the
DS got
first
better.
one was a ugly thing. Then they refined that with the light, and that was an aesthetic change. Fair enough. And then they added a lot more stuff in the DSi.
And then they made a massive one.
Then they made the massive one, which was, you know, optional if you wanted a bigger screen for all the grandparents who play like brain training and stuff.
I'd love a 3DS XL.
Yeah, they're really nice. They upscale the screen.
I mean, a 3DS one,
Really
a 3DS XL would be great.
That's got to be in their minds as well.
And just with
Half an hour battery life.
yeah.
But what you say, like, I think this year they really need to focus on the Wii U, and then 2013 will be time for 3DS revision.
Yeah.
That sounds like a
wait.
good plan.
Are you pumped as a Nintendo fanboy or fanboys? You pumped about the Wii U?
It's really difficult to be pumped about something that they haven't really shown any games for yet.
It's really easy to be pumped for a brand new Nintendo console.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there.
There's a lot of pumping
but
going on here.
They really need to nail it. They say they've learnt lessons from the 3DS. Hopefully they will come out with a decent range of software at launch, which will be...
When the lessons I'd learned
Later
is
this
you
year.
can't. It's not going to be called Wii U because they made that mistake with 3DS and everyone thought it was just another DS, and so they're going to change the name of it. I can't wait to find out what's actually finally be called. And the other big mistake they made was say no launch lineup, and so they shall remedy that with a retro game, I imagine, of some sort.
Well, yeah.
Retro Studios, that is.
Yeah, the makers of Metroid Prime, you've got to be thinking that they're going to make a Metroid Wii U game.
Really? Because I know this is all speculation and nonsense, but the idea of them doing a Zelda game.
I couldn't see them doing that. I mean, I would imagine that they could collaborate maybe on a game, but they have been working on something for a long time. The last thing they did was Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Who did that tech demo, that Zelda tech demo for the Wii U? Did they ever say that was anything?
That was internal, I think. But yeah, Retro haven't made a game since Donkey Kong Country Returns on the
It wasn't
Wii.
that long ago. It was last year.
But they've been doing something ever since. And there was a tweet from one of their guys that was deleted a couple of months back saying, right, we're about to push into crunch phase, got to get our game out soon. This is going to be hard work. That disappeared. You've got to imagine they're working on something for the Wii U launch.
Yeah, a friend of mine thinks it's going to be Return of Darkness 2, which seems like insanity to me because that's just too niche.
Didn't they tease that it's something that all our fans want us to work on?
Mario Party 10.
Yeah, probably.
Is it going to be the Birdo standalone game we've always wanted?
For Birdo, what?
Standalone.
Birdo stars in his or her own adventure.
Yeah.
We're getting a bit too niche here in Nintendo references.
What do
maybe.
their fans want them to do?
Metroid. They're
Are they trying
known for
another-
Metroid.
Well, Metroid Dread is what their fans want them to do. They're not going to do a 2D Metroid on the Wii U.
They've got to be kickstarting a new Metroid Prime series, haven't they? Could you imagine, like, the Wii U tablet controller? You can hold that up to the screen and it sort of
Scanning, yeah.
does stuff. Yeah, that was perfect for the series scanning. That would be cool.
That's quite exciting. An HD Metroid as well.
Yes. And it would be good to launch a Nintendo console with something that was adult or not inherently kiddie.
Well, same as have her feelings and her emotions like she did in Other M.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that game.
I liked it. It was kind of preposterous.
It was bizarre. It was so Japanese. Just so strange.
Well, it did feel... Sorry, we've just gone off on this massive
this is
fanboy
fine.
tangent.
No, it's absolutely. We're struggling for content. I'll be honest.
Okay, because I'll carry on rambling. Other M did feel like a proper. I think it's pitched as like a sequel to Super Metroid, and it felt like that, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. You're too young to have played Super Metroid. That's the problem.
I played Super Metroid, although I admit not when it came out. But yeah, it was an interesting concept. A lot of people didn't like the portrayal of Samus, because for the first time you have this silent protagonist, and finally she speaks, and then she won't shut up, and fans were
What was she talking about?
herself, her feelings. It gave her backstory and this sort of romantic entanglement, and nobody liked it because it sort of
Samus has always had a massive
retconned a lot of
backstory.
stuff.
Though. That's what, because in like Fusion and trying to think of other ones, but Samus has always definitely had a backstory, which has been more prevalent. It's not like she's not like Link.
No, but she doesn't blab on about it the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
always worries me
well-
because you always, whenever a new Zelda game comes out, you always get these ridiculous features saying 5 things need to happen to save Zelda. And all the silly Americans say, just do voice acting in them. It's like, no, that's the worst idea ever.
Although, interestingly, in Skyward Sword, I'd say they have more voice samples. You know, when you're talking to a character in the Zelda games, they always make some kind of... Yeah, like, hello there, but in kind of weird, not speaking speak, so they can keep it all over the world. Don't need to localise it.
From Animal Crossing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like that. There's a lot more noises in Skyward Sword. So they're moving towards voice acting. I think there might be even a couple of words in there.
Really?
Yeah. Like, because when they say something surprising, they'll gasp and they'll be like, oh, no. Like that. That's almost no.
There's-
That's what you got to look forward to in the next generation of Nintendo consoles. They
Nintendo
might actually have a
characters
voice in there.
Slightly more noises.
their first words 20 years after they've been in
Yeah.
their first game.
They've developed slowly,
Yeah.
if you compare it to a child.
The scary thing that happened. Sorry, should we go back to Resident Evil Revelations?
Well, yeah, go for it.
Why would you want to do that?
And if we can go full circle. I couldn't find a copy of it at all
Full
this
Circle
weekend.
Pad Pro.
Full Circle Pad Pro, indeed.
Oh,
I hadn't nodded off. I'm still here.
We just came to with that, Jim. That's brilliant.
Right, no, where are you going? Resident Evil Revelations.
No, I just found it really unbelievably hard to find in the shops this weekend. I stupidly thought it'd be a good idea to go to a bricks and mortar shop.
Are there any left?
Any shops? Well, I think that might have been part of the problem because I did try and go to Game, and Game had received hardly any stock at all.
That may not be limited to Resident Evil, though.
Yeah. That's because this is before everything, all the situation came to light.
Yes.
They had like 2 copies apiece. HMV as well had 2. HMV on Oxford Street had 5 copies.
Well, HMV have been in the situation that Game is now in for a while. So
Haven't
that is
HMV
what's
said
surprising.
they are
They're on the
probably
up
going
again.
to stop doing games?
Oh, what?
No,
That's
they're
not what I
going
heard.
to.
Well, their head of games left, and rather than replace him, they've melded that role into head of technology. So the guy that was previously head of technology is now head of technology and games. So rather than the head of games be its own job, it's now just folded into this other guy's job.
I really hope.
Which doesn't strike me as them going, yeah, we're all about games.
I really hope it's resolved though, because it's just really hard. Because just as someone there's quite a few people who like to play video games, I think, and just this weekend it was such a hassle trying to. In fact, I couldn't find it in a shop anywhere. And this is a big release for a fairly big console.
I don't think it's in anyone's interest, is it, that Game goes?
No, not at all.
No, absolutely
I'm not the biggest fan of Game,
Yeah.
and I think they could have done or could do a lot of things better. But still, I appreciate the fact that there's a bricks and mortar store I can go to pick up a game in, and when they go, we're all screwed.
Yeah, because if that goes and HMV goes, then there's nowhere on the high street to buy brand new games.
No.
Tesco's or Sainsbury's, that would be a really bleak situation.
Yeah, I haven't got a car. How am I going to get there?
Interesting. But for those guys, though, that games are not why they want people to come to their store. They're something for people to buy while they're at the store or while they're buying a lot of their other stuff. So if they ever decide, well, I probably won't stock games anymore, then and there's no HMV and there's no game, then that's really bad for gamers.
Yeah.
So it's a real.
But because when I went into, I don't want to speak. No, they're dead. They're not dead yet. But when I went into Game, I asked for Resident Evil Revelations. They had no idea what it was. In 2 of the shops I went into,
No idea what it was.
no, had no idea. They asked first of all what console it was on, and then they thought I was talking about one of the films. And so they don't do
What?
films. They said no, Resident Evil Revelations, the new 3DS game, and they looked a bit confused. And it's happened in 2 separate shops. I had to go and ask someone, and then told them that they did have a few copies came in that went.
It's
Which
not
is kind of that's kind of a poor indictment of how a game got to where they are now. It's not exactly the best of experiences when you go in there.
Maybe.
No.
Oh well. James, out of interest, how are we doing for time?
30 minutes.
30 minutes, you say?
God,
Fantastic.
that's really dragged on, isn't it?
Should we talk about... There's some games coming out tomorrow.
Is that?
Yeah.
Or today, if you're listening to this. It's Friday. Or it will be Friday. Never Dead? Anyone?
A destined to be a cult classic in the
I
future.
think so, yeah.
And I think it's one which is going to really gain momentum.
I read
Something
Chris
like that.
Donlan's review, and it almost seemed to me like he was... felt a bit sad about giving it the score that he did.
Yeah, he did, because he kind of loves it, but also has to admit in a professional capacity that it's not a very good game.
Yes. Metal Gear Collection. Anyone?
Anyone?
been a
Any
Metal-
takers? Any takers? I used to love Metal Gear Solid, and then I played Metal Gear Solid 2, and then I played Metal Gear Solid 3. And as each game comes out, I hate it more and more and more. But I'm saving myself for Metal Gear Solid 3 on the 3DS anyway.
How do you know how HDized these HD ones are?
They're well HD.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know actually. I know that Peace Walker was going to be 60 frames per second, and is it 720p? I think it's 720p 60 frames per second is what they've gone for across. I could be making these numbers
Sometimes
up.
HD collection is kind of or HDized versions.
Oh,
are
you know,
kind
like
of
what
dubious.
Ubisoft when Ubisoft do them, and
Well, I really like Beyond Good and Evil HD, but I don't know. We're talking about Resident Evil and 4 and
this
Code
one's
Veronica
been
came
handled.
out.
This one's been handled by is it Blue Point, the people who did Shadow of the Colossus and all the really good HD collections where they do more than just upscale it, because all the Ubisoft ones look atrocious. Some of the HD collections, but yeah, it's a good HDization.
I know Rich Ledbetter is looking at it for a Digital Foundry
Yes,
to investigate more.
should be good.
Final Fantasy 13 too.
I really, I'm
Yeah.
buying this.
I'm going to buy it as well.
If I could find a shop where I can buy it from, I definitely will be buying this weekend.
I love the demo.
I
I
haven't
really,
played
really
it.
loved it.
But no, I do want to play this. I played 13.
I've played 13. I quite like 13.
I did quite like 13 as well, but I didn't finish it. I got quite close to the end. And
I love Final Fantasy games, but I hold my hand up and admit that I've played pretty much all of them apart from like 2 and 3, I think. But anyway, I've only ever completed one Final Fantasy game.
you can get 3 on the iPhone now. So,
Yeah, they're all on. I think they're still on sale on the PSN store at the moment. You can get through like 1 through 6 or
1
something.
through 6.
isn't 5 free or something at the moment?
5
for-
is free for Plus members. Yeah,
5's really good.
and Soul Calibur 5.
yeah, that'll be good. It looks like it's going to be kind of a return to form after they went a bit nuts with all the Star Wars characters. And
Oh shit! I'd forgotten about that.
I'm a bit of
Oh,
an
that was brilliant,
Assassin's
wasn't it?
Creed fanboy, so I'm quite excited that Ezio's in it.
Ezio's and everything. Ezio's in because he's in Final Fantasy 13 too as well, isn't he? In the capacity.
What, his costume?
Yeah.
Not him. That would be amazing.
That'll be him.
Yeah, that is a weird crossover. You got to think like
He's a
who
slag.
dreams
He's a real
these things up?
slag.
He is.
He's everywhere.
He's a bit of a player. Who thinks up all these crossovers?
I don't know. There must be very persistent marketing people to manage to get Ezio in every single video game ever.
Ubisoft must be loving it.
What's the most inappropriate Ezio crossover? Actually, I can think of one which I can't say, but it's more
Say
obscure.
it, come on.
No, because it's a kind of obscure, like top floor Japanese stuff. But anyway,
Top shelf.
Yeah, top shelf. Where would he not fit at all? I guess.
Ezio Cooking Mama.
Yes, that would be amazing because of all those blades. Well, they'd be quite useful though. He can chop up stuff.
That's true. He would be amazing in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah. Ezio in Resident Evil 6.
It's probably been done already. It's probably happening.
There's actually a 4th section to the story, and it's set in Renaissance Italy, starring Ezio fighting zombies.
That'd be great. Maybe Assassin's Creed 3 will be set in a weird China where your Desmond Miles you slip in and out of Lee and Kennedy. Ooh. Sounds ace.
FIFA. That'd work.
He would just puncture the ball though, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Rubbish goalie.
Brilliant guy. He just stops the play dead every time he gets his hands on it.
Wow, wonderful. Good. All right. Well, that'll do.
I
I think we've all had enough here. And we don't want to overdo it. So thank you very much to Mike Robinson.
Thank you.
Thank you it's not a word, to Tom Phillips.
Thank you.
And thank you to listening and bearing with us. And we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.